Welcome once again. I'm Richard Fredrickson, and delighted really to be back down in the offices here at City Hall. Jim Hock is our guest, and Jim, first of all, thank you for taking time out.
Thanks for the invitation.
Busy guy. How many years now?
Just about 2.
2 years. And we were sitting, I think, in this same, I think Dick put us in these same 2 chairs about 2 years ago. And so we want to catch up a little bit, and we want to catch you up a little bit as to what's happening currently, what's going to be happening in the future, and just going to share some information with you and have a conversation here for the next half hour or so. We've seen on Channel 6, and for those of you who have been in City Council chambers and who've read the Herald News, the Times Weekly, and have received the City Hall News Magazine, you're pretty much aware of at least generality of Evergreen Terrace. But let's get into just a couple of areas there. See how quickly I get into this? No niceties at all, just go right to it. The court appeal. It's still a little vague to me as to what is really going on here. You've written a check, and you've got a lot of responsibility, but beyond that, what's taking place here?
Well, we've written a check for $15 million to the court, and the court is holding that money during the appeal process by the current owners. And but however, right now we are moving forward to try and take care of a list of things to do, which include entering into an agreement to form that limited liability corporation that will in essence be the owner of Evergreen Terrace with Holston Management Group. We also need a management and operation agreement with Holston so that they will handle the day-to-day operations. Those are the 2 biggest items. The other thing is that the city has a responsibility in the settlement with HUD to establish a community center there on the property. And there's currently an administrative building that will be converted into that community center.
Okay.
The idea from the start was to extend by park property right up there and include that playground area on Evergreen Terrace, this community center, and make that more of a walkway up and down the riverfront area. So once we achieve those things, then we will go back to HUD and say we are ready to take possession of the property. And the question is, will they let us do that before the appeal process is over, or are they going to make us wait? And we're going to go ask the court. If HUD refuses, we're going to go back to the judge and ask his permission, because the goal from the start was to take over the property, for us to manage it, to make it safer for all of the residents that are living there, that visit there, and make sure that the property is kept up, because who knows what kind of condition it's in today. If I were going to lose my property, I'm not sure I'd take that good a care of it. So we want to make this happen as fast as we can.
Yeah. Are there any safeguards at all in terms of the current owner who still is either doing things or not doing things over there? Mm-hmm. Is there I don't know, a committee, but is there someone who's watching over this to see if things are being done? I mean, the plumbing being done, if there's situations that arise? I mean, is he still, by mandate, he has to continue to do some kinds of assistance to these people?
Certainly. HUD has requirements for any owner of a Section 8 housing program or building, and but the risk to a current owner of such is that HUD will take away your certification. Well, if these owners are going to lose the property, what do they really care?
Right.
So So that is a concern, and we're trying to move as quickly as we can so that we can take possession of the property.
Quickly as you can in the bureaucracy of, and I'm saying this, Jim Hock is not saying this, but the bureaucracy of the state and the courts, we're talking about not real rapid progress here.
We're talking 3 to 4 months,
Yeah.
which hopefully will be before springtime of 2016.
Good. Well, that's better. That's sooner than I thought it would take place. What about? I know that's something that's been the headlines in both in Chicago and also here in Joliet. Worse headlines in Chicago about water and sewer rates, but proposed increases have been discussed and look like it's going to take place as we watch on Channel 6 for the council members. This is a decision they have to make. When was the last increase? I forgot. When was the last increase?
It was in 2011.
Okay.
And it was a significant increase. I think it was close to 30% back then. Every year we have operation and maintenance increases, and oftentimes if you watch any of the council meetings, this is the most significant purchases and maintenance that we do. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars for maintaining our wells, for treatment of the water, for the distribution, the water replacement projects that we do, the sewer replacement projects, improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. And that's the biggest reason for an increase right now, and the reason that we went out and we did a rate study. And that's because the Illinois EPA has certain requirements on our wastewater treatment. As you know, they've basically come along and said in older cities where you've got combined stormwater from rain events with the sanitary sewer, all of that has to be treated before it can be discharged. We're currently tunneling underneath the river, the IM Canal.
I saw that today, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
And that is going to go over to our wastewater treatment plant. And so there's the cost of the tunnel, there's the cost of the storage during these rain events. When all that water comes through, you have to have some place to store it, waiting to be treated. There's a number of other improvements to our other wastewater treatment plants, along with some of the sanitary and stormwater replacement lines that are required by IEPA.
The irony of that, and I thought about that this morning when I'm driving by, and a beautiful day like today, they were working. And actually, they've been working almost every day that I've been by there. The irony is that we're tunneling underneath the channel there, waterway, and when the rainwater comes in Chicago to significant levels, they just dump it in the river and it flow right down through Joliet. And we're going underneath it to clean up the water. It's interesting. I just thought that was just a little interesting.
Well, the other irony is oftentimes the water we're putting in is cleaner than the water that's basically
I'm sure
what
it
you're
is.
saying.
I'm sure
If you took samples of the river versus what we're putting in, it might be higher levels.
And Jim, it's even as bad as that water is today in that river, in that waterway going through downtown, it is much improved than it was 20, 25 years ago.
I'll bet that's the case.
Well, speaking of the waterways, it goes right through downtown. What's future plans for downtown?
Well, the Camaros report, which was a cooperative venture through the City Center Partnership, as you know, in the city, is just now delivering the final report. In there is a recommendation and something we're moving forward with in discussions with the county, is to take over the state's attorney building and the parking lot next door and totally renovate that plaza from the library parking lot down to the fountain, Van Buren Park today as it exists. Along with that is putting Chicago Street through from Washington to not Cass, but we'll be going all the way up to
Oh,
Cass
sure,
Street.
Yeah.
So that when you exit 80, you'll be able to go right into downtown. So many people today don't want, I think they don't want to come to Joliet because they come in there and it's like, well, which way do I turn to
Right.
get to the downtown?
It's complicated.
And-
Why
and-
make it complicated?
With one-way streets.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to change the one-way on the state highways because they want 3 lanes.
Yeah.
Their goal is to move traffic. And trucks are still allowed downtown, so we want them rerouted outside of the Chicago corridor and make that a pedestrian walkway, bike-friendly, and easy for commuters to find the downtown area.
Yeah.
And to find a new welcoming plaza across from the Rialto that would be real inviting and will create an environment that people want to participate in.
What do you think on a timeline? 2 to 5 years, something like that?
Right now, we're already doing phase 1 engineering with IDOT on putting Chicago Street through next to the courthouse where no road exists. Phase 2 will probably be next year, and then construction can begin on the whole thing the following year. So 17 would probably be a realistic goal. But that doesn't mean we can't do everything at that point in time. The roadway, the plaza, and do it all at once.
An exciting time. Also for jobs, by the way.
It would.
That's another added benefit to all of these plans that have been, sitting there. Multimodal project underway, progressing.
Well, we're kind of stalled out right now,
Okay.
unfortunately.
I led you down the wrong path there, but I'm devious at times. Go ahead.
Well, the state, we're in a quagmire with the state because the governor's office seems to be adamant that the House and the Senate needs to pass legislation that he wants passed. And so at the moment, he has withheld all of the casino and video gaming money to all municipalities since June. And they've got draft legislation on property tax freezes, and then there's a local government distributive fund, which he's continually trying to coerce the House and legislature to withhold that 10% of the income tax you pay to the state that comes back to cities and really funds a lot of the fundamental things we do in terms of police, fire, and public works, trying to cut that out. So it makes the unknown, makes me real apprehensive as to, as we go into our budget season, what exactly I can rely on. But
Yeah.
so it's a
You can't rely
very
on
difficult,
much from the
very
state
difficult
right now.
situation to do future planning and to propose projects and ideas and programs that you want to do, only to have the rug pulled out from under you if that's the case.
Well, it's a case all over the state, by the way,
It is.
in different municipalities as well. I like the next subject because it's near and dear to my heart, and we've talked on several occasions about this, but more cultural activities, more events for downtown Joliet. The mayor was quoted in the paper and on radio saying that he would, looking at that trend. 2016 will be a little different year, perhaps, for downtown, with more things added.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think we've seen a lot of success with Nitro Night, Race Fan Rally, and New Orleans Night, and it proves that people will come to the downtown if you've got a viable event for them, something that they're interested in doing. And so if we can build on that with other, and they don't have to be similar.
Right.
The point is to be inclusive with as many people. There may not be people interested in NASCAR or cars at all,
Right.
but there are art fairs or antique events, expanding the farmers market. that can bring other people downtown to enjoy the amenities that we
Absolutely.
have.
I think what we found out over the years that people like music, they like entertainment. We did several years ago have a very nice art fair in downtown Joliet. One of the big free events that have been just huge, and each year it builds, is the Kids Fest that's put on by Lewis University and produced by City Center Partnership. And I've had the opportunity to walk and talk to people who are there, and we get people not only from the local area, but all over the Chicagoland area, particularly the south suburbs, that come to the Kids Fest. And our friends at the library with their Star Wars and partnership with the museum, been involved in that, and folks have told me who were there that event is bigger and better than George Lucas's event in California. And so that has been successful. And the Comic-Con, that's not right. The Comic-Con Artist Expo, I apologize, I should have had that written down, but that was a few weeks ago at the museum, put on by Roger Burns and company, and very successful. So you're right, Jim. The events right now are a wonderful opportunity to brand downtown, to bring you downtown, and commend you and your team too at the city. Really a wonderful new start in cleaning the city up and making it, polishing it up a little bit for folks. And I want to just add my little 2 cents here. There's plenty of parking downtown Joliet, and the decks are only 50 cents an hour right now. I don't know if you're going to change that or not, but right now it's only 50 cents, and they're safe. And all these other rumors are just totally untrue. A great place to be in downtown Joliet. So
It is.
Enough of my preaching here.
One of the things, as you know, the city's owned the Crabigale building for a long time, and we're looking to have something done in that building. And so what we did was put together a request for proposal, which will be due before the end of October, and hopefully get some ideas from some experienced restaurateurs as to what they'd like to do with the building. And then we can pick the best idea and negotiate an agreement with them so that we could get a restaurant into the main floor of that building. That's the primary goal. Future years, they can develop the upper floors.
Yeah, and what is it, is it next year, 2016, that the Joliet Junior College students will be attending class? I thought it was next fall, a year from this fall.
I'm not sure how quickly, but I do know that we've shut down the street between Chicken and Spice and the building there.
Webster.
That goes right underneath the existing building.
Yeah. Right.
And they're using that for staging area for construction again right now to finish off the inside of the building. Now, when that's complete, we're abandoning that street, and that will become another plaza area for the students right in that area.
Great. Hey, you didn't know that, did you? Now you do. We talked a little bit about the impact of the state budget affecting the city. Is there more to it? There is more to it, isn't there? There's more to this story.
Well, there's always more to the story, but as a home rule city over 25,000, we are allowed to have sales tax and some other types of taxes to have as revenue to operate the city. Those that are under 25,000, they have the local government distributive fund and property tax. So if the local government distributive fund gets cut, all they can do is turn to property tax. And if the state puts a property tax freeze on, the only thing they can do is cut services. So Joliet is lucky that we have the options, but still it seems ironic that they would cut local government distributive fund, then handcuff us of one of the things we could do, which would be offset that loss with property tax increase. They're going to tell us we can't do that. Yeah.
Well, it's challenging, And if you don't think
At a
it's
minimum.
challenging, come on down to more of the city council meetings and work sessions that they have. And as an aside, I want to commend many of our council members and the mayor. Lots of coffees and lots of opportunities for you to for input. And this newsletter that's out, you should be having. It should be in your home now. Should have been there last week, or I don't know when we're doing this show, but probably last week it arrived in your mailbox. And there's lots of information in that. And if you want more information, you go to cityjoliet.com, right? Cityjoliet.com. Is that right? No, cityofjolietinfo.com.
That's it, yeah.
Joliet City Info. And Mr. Schuster, if you'd put that up on the screen after I butchered it, it would be good, so it's clarified.
And Richard, that newsletter is one of our success stories that
Yeah.
council set forth in the strategic plan last year, and something we'll be doing on a quarterly basis regularly.
Yeah.
And what you and I talk about here, we're also going to try and communicate in our newsletter so that people are up to speed, and it'll have a calendar in the back. So, normally you get something and then you look at it and toss it. But if you've got a calendar of events for the next 3 months, you keep it around and refer back
Yep.
to it on the weekends.
Yeah, another success that the city probably doesn't, go around saying, look what we've done. But good contracting, good negotiations, and these electronic signs that are all around the city now, and with the nice brickwork and some flower beds in front and Joliet on it. But I have to tell you, there are people at Joliet, now I know you're not one of them, but there are people in Joliet that don't know they live in Joliet. And they're still in what we call a Jolifield area. And the sign, a brand new one up there in Theodore and Route 59, people say, Joliet. Gee, I didn't know it was Joliet.
Yeah.
And much of what we talked here, at least in snippets, are up on that sign and letting you know that there's events coming up, there's activities coming up. And those signs can also be used for warnings. What's the one when the kid is
Amber alerts.
the Amber Alert are up on those signs.
Any kind of weather emergency.
Yeah. So, I say kudos to the city of Joliet for that. It's a great addition for communication and information. A couple of other things that next time we meet, which will not be a year from now, I'm going to try to get you more often and the mayor more often as well. We don't talk too much about this, and sometimes, we have headlines and then what happened to it? Whatever happened to, what is the status of the veterans housing over there? Wasn't that over Silver Cross
Property.
Hospital
Yep.
complex? There?
It is.
What's taking place?
It's behind it,
Yeah.
and it's been approved. They're working on finalizing their plans. They've got their money, their tax credits from IDA, and so we expect to get final working plans. And I don't know how soon they'll begin construction, but hopefully they can get moving on it anytime they're ready.
Great. There's great
Yeah.
need for that.
Yeah.
Speaking of moving in and getting construction going, 2008, 2009, those years were devastating for a lot of developers and builders. What's it like now out there for residences? Do we have any kind of residential growth?
We do. There's probably 300-400 building permits issued this year for new residential construction, and things, went from a dead stop in 2008 to gradually moving forward, and now it's starting to come back.
Good.
So
Good. I was thinking about businesses, and I didn't bring a list, and I didn't ask Jim to bring a list either, but as you're driving up and down Jefferson, driving up and down Plainfield Road, going through downtown Joliet, in and around the city, they might not be, the huge companies, although we've got some huge companies moving in the southeast side of Joliet, which we'll mention, but one of the newer businesses, and a little confession here, I don't do a lot of grocery shopping, but I was on a to-do list the other day, and I walked into Fresh Time, and I mean, there's other great supermarkets in Joliet, but I got to tell you, it's really a nice store, and it's great location, and Fresh Time. Yeah.
It's got a little different concept.
Yeah.
You keep saying, well, what's going to make this store successful or that store when they're competing against each other for a limited market, but each one of them, including Fresh Time, has some unique characteristics of things that you don't see in a normal grocery store.
They've come a long way from the old IGA stores that maybe one or
They
two
have.
of you might remember out there.
I do.
The other area, of course, where there's some big companies moving in and continue to do so, it's Center Point, and is that right? Like Center Point, but there's also that southeast side where we've got some companies moving in as well.
Right. There's Ryan Construction has a development there, and that's directly north on Laraway Road of the Chicagoland Speedway. IKEA is building 1.2 million square feet. Amazon is going to open 750,000 square feet before Thanksgiving. There's plans soon after that IKEA is going to build a second 1.2 million, and Amazon's going to add another million square feet.
Yeah.
There's in the Center Point development, there's a project that's we don't know the size of it yet, but it's on 93 acres, so it's going to be an awfully big building.
I would say so. 3 acres, yes.
Saddle Creek is a little over 1 million square feet, and they call themselves fulfillment centers. And I guess that would be whatever you need, we'll fulfill it, because Saddle Creek is going to do assembly on recreational vehicles for Honda. They make cosmetics, they bottle water, they do warehousing, and whatever else you need, basically.
It's amazing. It truly is amazing. If you haven't driven around a little bit, like we used to do 100 years ago on a Sunday afternoon, take a Sunday afternoon drive, you ought to do that and check out some of these places. It's amazing. What's amazing to me, and I don't know how they're going to do this, Amazon saying they're open up before Thanksgiving. I drove by on my way to Milwaukee a few weeks ago and drove by the Wisconsin or the Milwaukee Amazon. You drive for miles and that building is still there, and there's another building as big as that behind that building.
Right.
So this isn't going to be quite that big, but it's going to be huge here in Joliet.
It will.
So, having said all those good things, how are we going to deal with all this? I mean, the challenge of this truck traffic. We need some infrastructure. I know there was talk about maybe in the future putting a bridge over, the river there at what is that, Hobalt? Going across. Is that fantasy land, or is that something that maybe could actually take place?
I think that's something that will actually take place. Yeah. I think, but it requires cooperation of Center Point Development, IDOT at the state level, Will County, City of Joliet, everybody working together with the common interest, because we know that all the residents down in that area suffer from the fact that there's close to 15,000 trucks a day right now going in and out of the Center Point development. That's before IKEA and Amazon and other trucking companies locate on that 53 corridor. And we need to have some means of moving that traffic directly onto 80 and 55. And especially with the Ileana being basically out there in limbo again in terms of moving forward, we have to have a viable alternative to access the intermodal facility.
I remember so well years ago people calling the I-88 a boondoggle. It was the interstate that went nowhere, just to the university or to the NIU. And today, without that I-88, there'd be no tech corridor. Without that I-88, there wouldn't be that buildup around Naperville and beyond in DuPage County, and then beyond that into DeKalb. And I know it's tough for people who own property out there and farmers and agribusiness and all of that. But man, that is something that if you look ahead into the future, if it's not the Ileana, it's got to be somewhere else. because 15,000 trucks today,
Right.
there'll be a few more trucks 20 years from now. By the way, those are good jobs if you're looking for job opportunities. Those are great jobs, and they're constantly advertising. We're actually living in, I know it's some challenging times, but I think, would you agree that Joliet, where it's located, really is positioned in the next 2 to 5 years? I mean, it's going to be exciting.
I think it really will. We just talked about the 80 and 55 corridor, and you may have heard that Cullinan Development bought the, that would be the northeast corner property, 250 plus acres over there. They're looking for what the city had a vision for originally,
Yeah.
which is a mixture of commercial, residential. We had a lot of people coming in saying logistics and warehousing, but we've got plenty of room down in Center Point and along other areas of the expressway, and the city fathers and the current mayor and council really believed that would be successful, and now we've found a developer who believes the same thing.
Good, great, great.
So we don't have any plans at this time, but they're working directly with IDOT on access to the property, and then we'll sit down with them on concepts.
Great. Well, we've just begun. See us in our next session. And I talked to Jim Hock, City Manager, City of Joliet. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.